Hello and welcome to our podcast series. This series we are focusing on the safeguarding culture within schools. We have lots of head teachers that we are interviewing across the country, and today we will be talking to Sharon Barnes, who is the head teacher at Birdsbush Primary School in Tamworth. My name is Madeline Dunkley. I am the host and founding director of About Safeguarding, and we're going to explore different schools to see how their safeguarding culture has evolved over the years. So good morning, Sharon.
Good morning.
Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your school?
Yeah, so I'm Sharon Barnes, head teacher of Birdsbush Primary School in Tamworth, and I've been the head teacher there for 12 years. We are in the Belgrave ward in Tamworth, which has we have a mixed population. Our pupil premium is around 32%, and that increased quite a lot during COVID. And has dropped a little bit, so we're around 32%. And in terms of our SEN cohort, we've got around 20% pupils with SEN. Currently have 188 pupils on roll,
Right.
And our roll's been falling over time. We are 1.5 form entry, so we could have 315,
Right.
but over time the population at our side of town has declined, and there's been a lot of new builds the other side of town. So we're finding that that our cohorts have been less over the years, so sort of around the 200 mark. We're quite mixed housing, lots of social housing, council housing, and private rental. And lots of generations of families within the area.
Yeah. So would you like to describe to me your school's safeguarding culture?
Yeah. So we've recently had an Ofsted, and their first comment in the safeguarding box was arrangements for safeguarding are effective. Brilliant. Which I think is an absolute understatement in our school. I was pleased with the rest of the comment where they actually put that keeping pupils safe is a whole school priority, and I think that underpins it all. We have the culture is very much about it could happen here, and probably is.
Yeah.
And what we have to do is to be vigilant, to understand and believe in our good feelings and our instincts, and be proactive in that. So the culture has changed to be very much more proactive with the talking to children with our PSHE curriculum, and we're an emotion coaching school and a trauma-informed school. So staff are well trained and understanding in helping children with their emotions. So it's a very supportive culture. And as I said, we look at trying to get the earliest help. We work closely with the families and other agencies, and we have to make sure that the children feel very safe in school. And again, one of the comments from the report was children feel safe in school because they know they can talk to a trusted adult if they're worried about anything. And it's that culture of trust and openness. Yeah.
And how did you get that? How did you create that trust environment? What did you do?
Well, as I say, the development of emotion coaching and a trauma-informed approach has really helped to develop staff. And it has been about creating that understanding at all levels of staff. Obviously, we've got clear policies and clear procedures, and we make sure that all staff and children are aware of those. We developed a child-friendly safeguarding policy with our school council. So they have photographs of our DSLs and posters all around school so that they know who they can talk to. One of the things that I found really important in that was having a team of DSLs. Previously, I was the only DSL in the school.
Oh my goodness!
And being a fairly small size school, it was became unmanageable because of sort of the rise in the support that schools are expected to give and that we need to give.
Yeah.
So we have a team of DSLs now. So there's 4 of us,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all trained to the same levels. They are deputy DSLs, but there is no difference in the training or anything. And we meet weekly to have that supervision time and discuss children. And we do that as an inclusion team. So we look at all aspects. It's not just those children who are open to safeguarding our children's services. It's all of our children who we consider vulnerable or have additional needs. And it all forms part of an inclusion team rather than just safeguarding.
Yeah.
Training's been really important. That relevant and regular training will drop in an element of safeguarding or the trauma-informed process with in most of our training sessions or discussions with staff. And very much that training, we use case reviews and scenarios, particularly ones relevant to the context of our area. Yeah. Recently, there's been quite an issue within the area in terms of county lines. So not within our school, fortunately, but it could be. So, so staff, we've raised awareness of that. The use of case reviews, not only the published ones that hit the media, the case reviews that you can find online, particularly where schools have been identified as a factor of not information sharing or missing opportunities, and actually using those as our training to learn from those. Yeah. We have an annual external audit, which is really useful as well.
So audits are very good for your school. Yeah.
And that's organised by our trust. So all of the schools in the trust have the annual audit. And then from that, we can identify key issues within our school, but also across our trust in terms of training needs or anything. We moved to an electronic recording system, which, whilst I understand is costly and for some schools may not be the way they want to go, but for us, it was revolutionary in terms of that information sharing, and actually saved me an entire cupboard of not having so many files. We've got our own categories in there for particular interventions or particular agencies that we have access to in our local area, and personalise the alert levels so that it flags up if somebody's put in a cause for concern rather than a behaviour. And we also log on that all our conversations or emails with parents, so we've got a full comprehensive picture of any interactions with the child or the family or agencies or any incidents that are relevant to helping to support that child, or to get that very clear picture, all those bits of that jigsaw, putting it together. Also, then it has been working really closely with the outside agencies, making sure that the information is shared, and again being proactive about that. We often find we are able to check a list of children in our school who have had an allocated social worker, and sometimes that's how we find out that a child has an allocated social worker. So then we make sure that we contact them. We don't wait until sort of we're not waiting on contact from them. All of those aspects have to come together so that everybody is proactive in their approach to safeguarding. It's got to be that let's see where we can prevent and where we can help and support early, so that we don't get to a point where statutory intervention is necessary, or where children are being subject to long-term or significant harm.
Yeah.
That's our priority. Acting swiftly, addressing issues, being honest and open.
Brilliant. You talked about the emotional and trauma as a focus within your school. Would you like to expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we're an accredited emotion coaching organisation, and my deputy is a lead practitioner in emotion coaching.
Right.
This was something that was provided about 5 years ago by Staffordshire Virtual School for Tamworth.
Yeah.
All schools in Tamworth had the opportunity to have training in emotion coaching funded by the virtual school. And some schools, a few schools then took it forward and had their practitioner accredited within the organisation. It follows the relational approach, and we're in the process at the moment of rewriting our behaviour policy into a relational behaviours policy. So very much following the steps of emotion coaching, where we validate children's feelings and acknowledge them and help them to problem solve and regulate their emotions. And also it's building those relationships of trust, and children understanding that it's okay to not feel safe. What you have to do is find somebody who you feel safe with and build those relationships. And that's what we're there for in school.
Yeah.
Part of it also has been about, a considerable part has been about raising awareness for staff about the impact of adverse childhood experiences on children, but also on brain development of children. So it's not just an emotional impact. There is actually a physical impact of that trauma that goes way beyond just making children feel safe. It's about sort of rerouting those neural pathways, so that they can feel regulated. So we've done a lot of work with staff in terms of that, and we're now considering that actually COVID is going to be counted under the adverse childhood experiences. Yeah. So we have an entire generation coming through who have had a different early childhood experience that is going to impact on them. In terms of the socialisation, the massive increase in terms of children who are being diagnosed with different aspects of autism. And it all seems to be linking back to that social development that has been missed out. But also from the offshoot of that, in terms of children's safety, you've got children who haven't been with other children. You've got children who haven't been seen as regularly by schools. I mean, we always say we see children the most of any agency, and I think that's also part of my advocacy for children. Is of all agencies, if you are sat round in a safeguarding meeting or any professional, you are the person who sees that child the most. And it's important that the school is the advocate for the child. Too often I find that other agencies can be too trusting about parents' comments, and actually it's the children that need to be at the heart of everything.
Absolutely. A whole child-centred approach, isn't it? That the government are really trying to push through at the moment. So you talked about all your emotional and your trauma work that you've done. How did your staff take that on board to begin with? Were they accepting of it?
Absolutely fantastic. The way that the training had been led in school was very much in a supportive way, and used examples and sort of some quite humorous comparisons from sort of sitcoms, etc., where you can actually see the differences in approaches between the dismissive response and the confrontational response, and actually unpicking that, to help see how our responses as adults absolutely are the key to all situations. About that, if a child makes a disclosure, you cannot be shocked by that.
Yes.
Because then that reinforces that disgust that a child may be feeling about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And actually it's being very nurturing with that, but being a little bit depersonalizing it, while still having that empathy. And it has helped staff with a consistent language through the emotion coaching and the trauma informed, that it's okay to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, as adults, we're there to help, but also the skills and the language to be able to do that. With any disclosures, we try to use very simple acronyms or reminders. We have all of these on a big safeguarding board in the staff room, so it's there. So we do the TED approach: tell me, explain, describe. So that, again, when in training you said don't ask leading questions. Well, if you're trying to find out something, it's difficult to understand how you can do that without asking a question. So it's making sure that all staff, including lunchtime staff who are there an hour a day, but there is a significant research shows a significant number of disclosures are made to lunchtime staff, because children often see them as less of that authority figure. And they're in a more unstructured time that they're having a chat. So lunchtime supervisors have had the same level of training of all staff to understand the need for that consistent validation of feelings.
So you talked about how you trained your staff and you got the message out to everybody within the school. So how do you share your safeguarding ethos, especially around your trauma and your emotional side, with your parents or visitors or carers that come into your school?
Yeah, so we have a weekly newsletter, which we use as a vehicle to pass on those messages, as well as like the weekly dates and everything. I have a family support worker in post, and she will do sort of regular helpful sections on the newsletter. For example, she'll do an attendance one, she'll do sleep, she'll do a behaviour. So just little light bites of drip feeding information about some of the common parenting strategies, just so that we've got that early intervention, but also so that parents know that there's somebody that they can talk to in school if they are struggling. My family support worker also is able to issue food bank vouchers. So again, we promote that so that parents, if they are in need financially, that they don't feel that before they had to go to the church or they had to go to a local charity organisation, which actually a lot of parents found that quite intimidating and embarrassing. Whereas building that relationship with the family support worker, it's opened that up for them. And we also do hygiene bags, and we've just had some baby bags created, so that we have that openness with parents, and that has enabled those discussions to happen. If we have a concern, then the relationship building means that we can approach parents and they understand where we're coming from with it. Obviously, in school, we have a safeguarding policy for visitors, and we have the notices up in school. We have the photographs of the DSLs. We have the contact details. If parents wish feel they need to make a referral themselves about anything. We are part of Operation Encompass, so we post that on the newsletter regularly, just to remind parents that we do get information. So sort of they're aware of the information that we're receiving, and that they can talk to us about it, and trying to promote that ethos that if we have a concern, it's not that we're not trying to take your children away. And I think that's been a big thing that we've built over the years at school, that that is not what it's about. And that's not what children's services are about. There are lots and lots of things that actually, if we can have that open, honest relationship and help and support earlier, then we can put in things to prevent the need for further action.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Getting that message to parents before, say, social services have to step in to understand that they're not there to take your children away. They do feel that is the case, don't they? And sometimes they do tell the children that as well. So, so they say, don't say anything.
No,
otherwise you'll be taken away.
Yeah, when we do work with the children through like the PSHE or different events, for example, it's say the children Christmas jumper day today, and we'll do the NSPCC number day, and we use all of those. We use all of those opportunities to encourage children to understand the processes of all agencies. So we'll talk when the children do a unit of work about people who help us. Obviously, we'll have all the traditional firefighters, the lollipop person, police, but we will also include social workers, so that they've heard the term social worker, and that a social worker isn't somebody who's going to come and knock on your door and take you away from your mum and dad or whoever you live with. So it's trying to sort of break down quite an old-fashioned culture. I know when I was young, that was what it was. If the police came and knocked at your door, or you had to have a social worker, social services, they were coming to take you away. And it's not that, and we have to. We build that as a school in our discussions with parents and through knowledge with the children, that these are support services. Like if you've got a broken arm, you would go to the doctor. If you're struggling with something, then you could seek this help. And that it's not okay that witnessing domestic violence or being hurt by an adult, it's not okay. So we try to be very open and honest about that in school.
Which is great. So if you had to give one piece of advice to other schools around safeguarding culture, what would that best piece of advice be?
Oh, can I only have one?
Oh, you can have as many as you want.
Okay. All right. So I think I probably could narrow it to about 3. And that would be to make sure that in your school it is a team approach, that you have more than one DSL, so that any concerns, you can have a discussion at a DSL level about whether you move forward with it or the appropriate routes that you need to take. It helps to take out the personal response, to make sure that actually you're having those discussions, but also that around whilst as a DSL you may be making that referral, you know that through a team approach in your school that child is supported. I think learning and reflecting on your own practice, learning from serious case reviews has been really very, very useful. And the whole staff, our whole MAT had training this week about learning from serious case reviews. My aim would be never for my name to be on one of those, and certainly never for it to be about not sharing enough information. And my other one would be to never be afraid to challenge. I know the escalation policy within 3 local authorities very well, because actually we are the children's voice. We see the children the most. And if we're not looking out for them, then actually sort of we're failing. We've got to get it right. And if we don't feel that things are moving, or that the right support is being taken into account, or that the voice of the child is not being heard enough, then we have to have the confidence to challenge.
Absolutely. That is an amazing piece of advice. The amount of times I've had to say to people, you're going to have to fight. We shouldn't have to fight.
No.
But you have to fight if you don't believe that the right action has been taken. Absolutely having the confidence to do that.
And that's where the team around you helps as well in school, because it is emotionally, it can be quite soul destroying if you feel you are the lone voice for that child, and who sees it quite differently to other professionals around the table and the parent. But actually, if you strongly believe that that is your view and that is what you're saying for that child, you have to fight.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Well,
thank you very much for sharing your safeguarding culture with us. You've given some really great advice, and it's very interesting to hear about your trauma and your emotional work that you've done within your school. So thank you very much for taking the time with speaking with me today. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure other people will too.
That's okay. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thank you.